Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4 Wheel Parts. Today, we're joined by our featured guest, Jordan Bernloehr. He has raced multiple disciplines, so we get multiple perspectives in one show. So I can't wait to get into the actual interview with him, but I have a few things to cover with you. First, we'll start with a message about 4 Wheel Parts. They are running some pretty good deals right now. That's what they do. If you could venture into my wish list on 4 Wheel Parts, you would see how excited I get about this stuff. But they've got tons of good deals going on right now. But just a reminder, there's 93 different locations, and they can actually install your upgrades, and they have in-store installation specials going on. So check that out. $500 off select wheel and tire packages, which go very well with the $500 off select suspension system. So you find the right match. You're talking about $1,000 off right off the bat there. They are running special deals on Mickey Thompson tires, so a set of 4, $200 off that. 20% off Smittybilt products, which is a 4 Wheel Parts brand, so pretty cool stuff there, especially if you're into overlanding. So I've got my eye on their Smittybilt overlanding tent one day. Not today, but one day. And then they also have a special sale right now, 25% off their overstock stuff. Last thing I'll just mention here, truck bed cover of the month specials going on. So if you're looking for a truck bed cover, head over to 4wheelparts.com and check it out. You can always get 6 months interest-free financing with the Synchrony Car Care card, so you can check that out. Obviously, you can go to the website, or you can call 1-800-284-9840. Now, this show here exists to make sure that you've got the right information you need to make good sponsorship decisions with your racing program, your riding program, your influencer program, whatever it is. We call this the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, but you can ride Jeeps, you can ride UTVs, you can ride ATVs, motocross, jet skis, monster trucks. It's all good. I mean, we focus on the motorsports industry. That's where we bring people in from the industry to talk about that stuff, how it works. So if this is the first time listening to the show, that's what we do. Go ahead and hit subscribe. That way you don't miss upcoming guests. And, if you've been listening to the show and you like what you're hearing, head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. Even if you don't like what you're hearing, go ahead and do that as well. I'd love to hear your feedback. You can also send me an email, josh@sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com. Now, we couldn't make this show possible without some amazing partners. I already mentioned 4 Wheel Parts, but we also have AMSOIL. They provide amazing lubrication products, and they're a company that runs on freedom. You can find out more at amsoil.com/rider. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology, and they're ready to rescue your race. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsports sponsorship and website creation. Bold Racing, they're a family race team and GSP XTV axle specialist. And then Crash Addict Industries, they provide human protection and extreme racing products. I also want to shout out some of our other partners, including MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, GSP XTV, Diode Dynamics, and High Octane Coffee. And speaking of High Octane Coffee, now it's time to get your High Octane Coffee marketing tune-up. This segment features Joey Sylvester of High Octane Coffee. He gives you a tidbit of sponsorship advice. He can be reached at Joey Sylvester 8, or you can find out more at High Octane Coffee. And right after this, we'll get into the show.
What's up, guys? Joe Sylvester here with your High Octane Coffee marketing tune-up of the day. Today I want to talk about your brand, your personal brand, and the type of fans that you have. Your fans, your followers on social media, those are the customers for your sponsors. So you need to think about companies and brands that align with your personality, your personal image, and your personal brand. Don't approach companies that you don't really use in their product, you don't understand, or it doesn't fit with your image. Only approach companies that are going to align with not only your brand, but also your fans and your followers. If your fans are very, blue collar America, pickup trucks, cowboy boots, maybe a wine type of crowd isn't really going to be a good sponsor for you. That's going to be a different type of demographic. Same as, a flower shop for me. I'm a very abrasive personality. I have a certain type, of fans and followers on my social media. So I always try to work with brands and companies that align with my image and the people that associate with me.
Today I'm joined by our featured guest, Jordan Bernloehr. And Jordan, we got a lot to talk about here, but let's just kind of get things started. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so first I want to say thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Pretty exciting. But about me, I'm 22 years old from Minnesota, Lakeville, Minnesota. And I race all my life, grew up in a racing family. And I'm just trying to find some sponsors to get back into racing.
Yeah, and, you and I kind of talked a little bit, before we actually started doing the show, about some of the challenges with sponsorship, that you've run into, and guess what? Everybody listening is running into similar challenges, and and some of the wins that you've had, people have had some good wins too. So we'll talk about those things. I think it's gonna be a pretty cool story here because I know you've been involved in multiple types of racing disciplines, and I don't know. I'm just curious to hear your story. I'm curious to hear, some of your challenges, how you've gotten through some of those things, and what your next steps are, and all of the above. But to kind of kick things off, let's dig into your background. I want to hear it, all the cool stuff that you've done in the past. So where do you want to start at? The very get-go? You were born, you started racing something? I don't know. Where do you want to start it?
Yeah, no, so I'll actually start off the very get-go. Well, first off, my dad and my grandpa, we've all been a racing family, grown up with racing. And I was very fortunate to have my dad open up an indoor go-kart track that we own, which is called Go-Kart Indoors. And it's in Burnsville, which is not too far from us. And he opened that up in 2000. So when I was about 3.5 years old, I was able to start ripping around at the kart track. And I would go to work with my dad, and we'd be there for 6 to 8 hours. But once I was anywhere from 4 to 7 years old, I'd just go in and he'd start me up, and I'd normally go just until I ran out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always driving, and I always had a passion for it. And then I started racing go-karts at a very young age, competitively, and won two national championships right off the bat. But I was also into motocross. So at the same time, my brother and I were racing motocross. So I actually ended up stopping go-karting for a bit to do some motocross. And I just realized that two wheels is very fun, but it's just not for me. I don't have the skills to go to where we needed to be. But yeah, no. So went from there on to go-karts, and I still race go-karts competitively just because I think the best thing to keep your racecraft together.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I turned 15, I was able to get an opportunity to do a test at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is in a USF 2000. And the USF 2000 is an open-wheel race car. So it's the feeder series to IndyCar, which was essentially my goal. But everyone knows that it takes a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So, which was very cool. We got to do that. And then started racing desert racing because my dad has an off-road background. Mm-hmm. So I did the Mid 400, co-driving with my dad for the first time. And once we did that, I was absolutely hooked.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like being in the desert, going through bumps at close to 100 miles an hour, and it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and then I ended up racing Trans Am, which is a professional road racing series. So we get to go to all the cool places like Circuit of the Americas, Daytona, Sebring, Road Atlanta. So I'm basically I've always loved racing, and I try and do whatever I can.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit ahead of time because I was out at the Belle Isle Grand Prix in Detroit here, 2 weeks ago, and you were there on the same day. You weren't racing that day, but it was just kind of weird that we were both in that area, although it's a massive area. But I'll tell you what, that's some of I don't know, the coolest stuff I've been around. That was my first time at an event like that. I don't think I've ever been to any sort of road racing event. I've been to Best in the Desert stuff, which is awesome, and I've been around motocross, and I've been to supercross races and stuff, but never been to anything quite like that. It's a whole new ball game. Really cool. You can tell people have some serious money invested into these vehicles too. Not even just the vehicles, like the garage setups that they have on their trucks. I mean, it's just crazy. Especially some of the bigger drivers. Like, I don't even know how to put a dollar value behind some of these programs. I mean, it's just incredible. Like, if people are listening right now and you haven't seen some of these rigs, like the tow rigs that they bring in there, and just how legit they are, I don't know if I could really get you there. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I actually do know a little bit of the money aspect. Like most like top IndyCar teams, from what I've heard, like they're spending close to $10 million a year.
Whew.
And that is the best. I mean, the best sponsors.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is the ratings have been up for IndyCar a lot, but it is still hard for even big teams to get big corporate sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
But racing is coming back, which I think is great. And the IndyCar paddock, just being around there, IndyCar, Pirelli World Challenge, Trans Am, IMSA, it's really good, and great drivers also.
Yeah, I probably spent the most time watching the IMSA racers. So like Juan Pablo Montoya, and there's a bunch of other people out in the field. But I'll tell you what, there's two Lamborghinis. Maybe you even know who they are. I don't know off the top of my head who was driving, but like one of them was they were sponsored by First Form, and it was a Lamborghini, and it was just the best sounding vehicle ever. I even think I talked about it in the last episode I did. It's still in my heart. Like I can still feel the engine in my soul. But yeah, it's just a really cool environment. I want to get like $10 million consistently each year so that I could like do this. That'd be awesome. Or just be around it. Like I could be the guy that just kind of like stands around and points at things and says like, work faster, like, drive faster. I could do that.
Mhm. Yeah, no, we've always joked around. Me and my dad, we've always joked around. If we win the lottery, we're just gonna go straight to IndyCar. We're gonna start testing, because that is it's my favorite racing of all. Just because I think the dream for every kid just about is to go to Formula One.
Yeah.
But the problem is Formula One is so based on money and teams, where I feel like in IndyCar it's truly about driver skill, and there's a lot of parity between it. And even a lot of the F1 drivers that have came over, they've actually said they love IndyCar and they think they have a way better chance at succeeding. So, and then also, I can't think off the top of my head. Corey Lewis is driving a Force Form Lamborghini.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, but yeah, no, I know a few of them. So, like one of my really, really good friends who I raced with in Trans Am, Gar Robinson.
Okay.
He was in the Lone Star Racing Mercedes.
Oh.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah.
If you saw it, number 74.
Yeah.
Yep. He was great. Yep, he was racing with Lawson Aschenbach, so that was pretty cool to see him. That was actually one of the main reasons we went, just to go see.
Nice.
Some friends, the paddock I used to race in. So.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Lots of different disciplines there. That was one of the things that attracted me to having you come on this show, is the different disciplines. We've never had someone that has done the go-karting on the show before. Maybe they did it dabbling a little bit, but it definitely wasn't something that was like, that they really promoted as much. So it's kind of cool to have that discipline on the show. And I don't know if we've really had someone who's done Trans Am driving specifically. Like we've had people who do road racing, but not that specifically. So that's kind of cool. And I also just really wanted to point out the fact that you've done, at least these 4 different disciplines of racing, and I talk about that in this show. I've even done a show about it, that there's just there's a lot that you can learn from the different disciplines. There's a lot of similarities that transfer over. So a way you approach a sponsor in Best in a Desert might not be that different from how you would approach a sponsor in the go-kart world. But there's all sorts of cool little nuances that you learn in going through these conversations that I highly encourage people, if you're a backcountry snowmobiler, like, listen to a road race show, or if you're a road racer, listen to a Best in a Desert show. I know that some people like to stick to just their one discipline, right? So they'll listen to all the snowmobile ones, or listen to all the Best in Desert ones. And I would love to see people branch out if they haven't already. So that's one thing kind of cool with you is, you're bringing multiple ones in one show.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just kind of how I've always been. I really enjoy the side-by-side with road racing, with go-karting. But like I said, my dad actually won X-Brand in the brush run, and I think 93 in buggies.
Okay.
So I've always had an off-road background, and the first time I ever drove, which a Class 10 in Best in the Desert, I was immediately hooked.
Yeah. I bet.
But to say how sponsorship, I mean, obviously they all want to see them getting awareness, their brand, but they also want to see the ROI, which is always the hardest thing to tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And we'll talk more about that too. It's hard to get away from, or to do one of these shows here and not talk about ROI, return on investment. It's also one of the hardest things to track in a lot of cases. Unless you have some solid, like, sales numbers that you could show, it's difficult, but it's also the most valuable thing if you can figure it out. But what are you really excited about right now? I mean, what are the things that you're focused on, current state?
Right now, currently, I've been really focused on go-karting, just mainly because it's the most affordable to do. But it's really, really good competition. It's always, I mean, our top 10 to 15 are within close to like 2/10 of that flat. So We're always switching out. And then I'm also, I just recently, I think 2 months ago, I got an offer from How Racing Chassis, which is actually in Michigan. He specializes in like Trans Am chassis, and he actually sent out his chassis to Costa Rica. And I was able to get an offer to go visit Costa Rica and race in Costa Rica.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which was actually one of the coolest things I've done. And I actually just made a deal that I'm going to go back in 2 weeks to go race again. So we're doing a team race, and my teammate will be Aran Sanchez. He's from Mexico.
Nice.
And that's the next thing on my list that I'm going to do. It's really cool over there because they only have one track, but they really, really love racing, which I think is great, and you don't always see that over here. Mm-hmm. But also they are just starting to get very good corporate sponsors. I mean, like Monsters over there, Toyota. The big thing is the manufacturers are there, and they're putting in money because it's something they believe in. And so that's one of the things that I've been really looking forward to about trying to put something together, maybe full time.
Oh, that's really cool. So maybe we'll talk a little bit more about how that deal came up in a minute here too, because that would be pretty interesting to understand that. What car though are you going to be racing? Is it one of their cars that are going to let you run?
Yep, yeah. So the series is owned by a group in Costa Rica, which is called CTCC, which is the Costa Rican Touring Car Championship. And so what it is, I mean, they all have BMWs, Hyundais, Suzukis, but really it's a tube-frame chassis, like I said, made from How Racing. Mm-hmm. And he's the reason I was able to get in contact was because they were looking to bring out an American driver. But yeah, so it's a normal tube-frame chassis, and then you just put bodywork on it, and then you're able to put on what sponsors you need to get you to the race, which is, I think, very, very cool.
Perfect. Well, I think in a minute. We'll come back to that. So I got a note here. After the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about that specifically. But before we do break, I'd just be curious to know, like, who are some of your other partners that you're working with right now? I know that you said that you've got some on your list to contact, but do you have any active sponsors right now?
Yeah, actively. Technically, I'm sponsored by our go-kart chassis. I always promote it. And then Air Jacks, which is a air system that's put on a car, and it's a jack that you don't need a jack stand for. It's just used by compressed air, which is very, very good, very safe. If you watch like the IMSA people and the IndyCar, they all run it also. And then just go-karting, MGM Chassis, who is the chassis maker of what I run.
Perfect. And by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I'll say it now. That had to have been the coolest childhood ever, with your dad having this go-kart track. Like, that's I couldn't imagine a better opportunity. Like, yep.
Yeah, no.
Rip it, son. Just do it up.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, like you said, there's no better childhood to have. I mean, I've had the chance to go driving just about any time I could get a ride there. And it was also very cool because I was able to bring my friends and introduce my friends to it. So yeah, very, very fortunate. And I was also, I think at times it was the best, but sometimes it hurts, but you get used to driving go-karts, because I wouldn't use a certain one. I'd use their normal rental carts so everyone can use them. So I learned to adapt to a cart that had, it was not as fast in this corner, but it was better in this corner, where I feel like I got the versatility of driving different things.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm just thinking back to all the times where I'm like, man, if I could just do another couple laps in this go-kart, that would be phenomenal. You know, or like you just find a line that works and like, oh, the ride's done with. You know, I'll gladly take my money. I just want to go round and round and round and round. So yeah, that is super cool. Please high five your dad for that. 'Cause that's really cool.
Yeah, I will. I do every day, because we actually do we even do our own, like, we call it the Knothead League, which is our own personal league. It's the fastest people of all pro karts that come, and it's close to like 16 to 18 guys, and we always duke it out every Tuesday night, and it's definitely fun.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Well, we're going to get in a lot more of the show in a minute, but right now I want to take a couple of minutes here to thank the sponsors for this podcast.
Hey guys, George Hamill here to talk about SolderWeld's new off-road repair kit. If you're a racer of any type or an off-road enthusiast like myself, you're going to want to take a close look at this product that bonds metal on the spot. SolderWeld has combined some of their most elite products into one small kit that fits perfectly under your seat or strapped to a roll cage and allows you to make some insane fixes anywhere you go. How many of us have been in a race or out on the trail and got a rock chip in a radiator or brake line? We have seen a top-tier desert race team at the 2019 Min 400 taken out by a simple rock to the radiator. If they had an off-road repair kit on board, they could have been back up and running in just minutes. The kit includes everything you need to work on dirty aluminum, stainless steel, copper, and many other metals. SolderWeld's cutting-edge technology allows you to make these fixes with extremely low heat and incredibly high tensile strength, leaving you a lasting fix every time. Don't be that guy broke down on the side of the trail. Get your off-road repair kit today, and your friends will thank you.
Two questions I get continuously about this show and about sponsorship is, do I need my own website and do I need a resume? The answer is, in my opinion, yes to both, and that's why we partner with TopThePodium.com. Now, if you want to see an example of what a professional website and what a professional resume looks like, you gotta check out TopThePodium.com. They did my website. The Sponsored Rider Club Podcast website is sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com. That was created by Jeff Vanistall of TopThePodium.com. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of good feedback about it. And there's a number of other websites out there that Jeff has produced that are just phenomenal. So I think it's important in this world of social media where you have control of your content That's what a website does. It gives you full control. We don't know what Facebook's going to do sometimes. We don't know what Instagram's going to do. We don't know what Twitter's going to do. So if we don't have that central location to direct people and house our content, there is some risk that we incur. So I strongly recommend getting a website, talking to topthepodium.com. And then the resume, again, is massive. And if you want to stand out, get it done professionally. And honestly, it is one of the best ways to step up your game and present yourself in the best way possible. Family, race, team. Those are the first words that come to mind when I think of Bold Racing. And the next one is actually axles. Bold Racing is a premier distributor of GSP XTV axles. And if that wasn't cool enough, they just came out with an entirely new axle called the Revolution axle. It is a hollow tube axle. It's really cool. If you head over to their website, gspxtv.com, or you can find out more at boldracingltd.com, you can find out how this new axle technology works. So they are saying to view this as a fuse for your drivetrain. So the hollow tube CV axle twist technology actually increases the strength and reliability of the axle, and it also reduces stress on the drivetrain. Plus, honestly, it's super cool looking, and if people know me, they know that I really like cool looking stuff. So they come in this really cool gold color. Check it out. It's absolutely revolutionary. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out crashaddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. Let's talk about AMSOIL. Maybe you've seen them at Sturgis or the AMSOIL Championship Snowcross Series, maybe your local track. Maybe you heard about them on this show. They are all over the power sports world, and here is why they get it. They're a bunch of gearheads just like you and I. They're riders, they're racers, just like us. They're also chemists and engineers, which means they're good at making synthetic oil. That's what we want them to be good at. Their time at the track and on the streets, it gives them that first-hand knowledge of how tough equipment is on oil. Extreme heat, increased stress, high RPM riding, it all works against you and your ride to basically get you sidelined. But no worry, AMSOIL handcrafts synthetic lubricants that fight wear and resist extreme heat so that you can get the most power and best performance out of whatever it is that you ride. Visit amsoil.com/rider for more details and check out their full line of products for anything that you ride. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are now in the main event. So the first round there, we kind of got into all of Jordan's background, some of the cool things he's done, what he's excited about now. But we're going to talk about a few things around sponsorship tactics and strategies. And a lot of that comes with, how you make deals, how you get in contact with people, things like that. So I promised earlier that we'd come back to this, and we're doing it now. I'd really love to know more about how you got the deal to race down in Costa Rica. I think that'd be a pretty interesting story to hear.
Yeah, no. So I kind of touched base on it, but the guy or the company who makes all the cars and the chassis that are in Costa Rica is from Michigan, and it's How Racing Enterprises. and he builds all the chassis, or most of the chassis, for Trans Am. So I was actually using his chassis for the past 2.5 years when I was racing in the TA2 class. And so he reached out, and I'm very interested because I don't have a budget to run a full season anymore just because it is too expensive. And we came really, really close multiple times to some really, really big sponsors, but just never was able to fully sign the contract. So going to all these different races, because he's actually started to sell them in Costa Rica. He has cars in Australia, Thailand. So I've been actually very interested in doing those different one-off races just because I think, for one, it's really cool to go on the adventure to see the different cultures, but also I think it's great publicity from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So you already had a relationship with that company. Do you know why they reached out to you specifically? I mean, you said you're an American driver, but why did they come back to you? Do you know that?
Well, it was more to the whole Trans Am paddock, but a lot of them are running full seasons, and it was basically just reach out to me, and I reached out to them, and they were very excited that I did. But it just so happened that it worked out with my schedule because there's in the TA2 series there's 13 races, which is a lot of racing, so a lot of that conflict. But yeah, I was able to do it, and I'm very glad. And once I went there, the group from Costa Rica, they invited me back right away. So.
No, that's very cool. That's very cool. Can you recall how you got connected with that company, from the get-go? I mean, going back, what, right before you started racing in that series. Can you recall that?
With how racing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually very simple. I started driving with BITD Race Cars, which is a team. So we never had our own team, too much time and money. So I actually was able to get signed with a team from Canada, and they used their chassis. So when I was first there, I got to meet Chad, who was the chassis builder, and from then on, I've just always known them. So it's a pretty close paddock.
Yeah, that's really cool. There's a couple of sports out there, right, that you can race as part of a team, and then you take on the team sponsors as well. So I think in snowcross, Team Levi LaValle's race team, right, they're sponsored by Red Bull, they're sponsored by Polaris snowmobiles. So whoever comes into that team, they take on those companies as their own sponsors too, and then they get all these cool connections. So even if they leave the team later, or the team dissolves or whatever it may be, you have those connections, and a lot of times they can carry into other things that you do. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It sounds like a little bit of that happened here, and you're able to connect later, right? Even when you're not actively racing in that series, and be able to get this cool trip down to Costa Rica. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very excited to go back again.
Definitely. Well, do you have any other examples like that of where you built a relationship with a sponsor, even, got pretty far along building one with a potential sponsor?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that exact thing. So the team I was racing with, I actually ended up jumping teams to the team which was the championship winning team, and he was actually also from Minnesota, and he was always wanting me to drive, and so I did a full season, and then I ended up switching to Miller's Motorsports, and they actually ran Dodge Challengers. So they had Dodge Power under the hood, and one of their team sponsors was Speed Logics, which is a company who does a bunch of aftermarket Dodge Challenger and Charger parts. And so they invited me out to Florida they do like a big, basically like a car show during the summer after the racing season is over. And so I actually was able to be the pro driver, the guest there, one of the times.
Mm.
So that was very cool. That would be another example of similar.
Yeah, that's really cool. We talked about some of the challenges with sponsorship, and especially when you get into some of these big programs, like the money that goes into these things is just incredible. Entry fees alone sometimes can just cripple teams, and that's why people are listening to the show. Like, let's just be honest, right? You're not here to listen to my amazing, nighttime DJ voice. You're here to listen to, how you can come up with the cash to do the thing that you love doing. That's what it's all about. Like, let's just be honest. But it's tough. So, I ask people this question, when did things not go great with the sponsor? Like in your case, you said that, you had a couple like big deals that got close but never quite came through, I don't know. Like, do you mind walking us through something like that? I mean, you don't have to say the company name, but just kind of giving us that experience, because if people haven't been there yet, you're probably going to get there at some point because it happens. So you might as well be prepared.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'll give. There's multiple times it happened because. Well, one thing I will say is when I was going for sponsorship. This whole time it was always to go for a full season in Trans Am, which that's big money. So I think there's definitely opportunity for me to get smaller sponsorship, but I wasn't going for smaller sponsorship. I mean, we were going for $150,000 sponsorship
right
year. So I mean, it's understandable that we were not able to get certain deals closed just because it is hard for them to see the return on investment. But yeah, no, I mean, there have been multiple companies. I mean, also I have a good friend who did a lot of, he kind of helped out with some deals in Trans Am and Formula Drift. So he was helping me with quite a few of them for a long time. Just and like I said, we got really, really close. But they're just like, it's just not in the budget right now because at the time they were starting to pull away from racing. And you can't do anything when they say it's not in the budget.
Right. Yeah, that's tough. Having a team pull away from their whole racing program, or, maybe they put their whole thing on hold. It happens. It happens a lot. I mean, fortunately, there's also then companies that come in and replace them, right? They say, hey, you know what, we're going to enter the industry, but sometimes they just leave, and it's nothing that you could do to prevent that. You could be, I mean, I guess if you had the most incredible, unstoppable return on investment ever, a company would have trouble leaving an industry, but sometimes they just run out of money, and they just can't cover it, even if it does have a good ROI. It does happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you've been through this, you said a couple of times now, and like, that big of a deal, I think you said $160K. That's massive to feel like, hey, I'm getting somewhere, I'm close, and this might happen, I hope it happens, and it doesn't. Like, whew, that's a tough one to take.
Yeah, it was. It was one of those things where we got the call, and we were waiting for the call, just nervous, and then we got a message from one of the sponsors, and it sounded really good. They're just like, yeah, just give us a call and we'll figure it out. And so it kind of got to the point where like, oh wait, this is going to go our way. And then sure enough, it unfortunately had a little turn. They just explained about the whole budget thing.
Yep.
And that was a really hard thing. And then also, I forgot to say, another thing that I'm fired up for, it's a little off track, but I am trying to get back into Stadium Super Truck.
Oh, yeah. I saw that video that you sent me. I think it didn't have the body on it. That's one of the ones that I think you sent earlier today. That's cool.
Yeah. So just a real quick story. I want to thank Robbie Gordon very much. real quick was I actually, if you know who Sheldon Creed is, he was my. Do you know who Sheldon Creed is?
I know of the name, but I couldn't tell you any real context.
Okay, he's really good. He's honestly one of the best drivers I've met. Actually, he's just one of those kids who's got extreme talent, and he also is not afraid to really throw it out there. And so no, I was actually teammates with Sheldon Creed, who is basically Robbie Gordon has been his mentor for a while.
Yeah.
Sheldon is the champion in Stadium Super Trucks, I think like twice in a row.
Nice.
And now he's doing truck racing, so he hasn't done too much. But yeah, so I was teammates with him, and I was able to go out and test privately at Robbie Gordon Motorsports, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Nice.
And he has in their lot, he has a little track, which is just awesome. And that all I'll say for right now that is by far the coolest thing I've ever driven. And I'm really working hard to try and get back in one.
You know, I was bummed because at the Belle Isle Grand Prix, I think last year they had stadium trucks, and they did not have it this year. And that's a bummer. I would have loved to see that.
Oh yeah, no, the past 2 or 3 years I've been to Belle Isle, the Stadium Super Trucks. I mean, it's like always the best thing. I mean, there's not many things where you can watch of racing where it's like you're looking at fireworks. They're about to hit the jump, and you're like, ooh, and then they land. And you're like, just relieved. It's awesome. The crowd is wild, and I definitely think Detroit missed them. I mean, I know I missed them when I was there watching.
Yep. Well, while we were talking I pulled up good old Instagram here, and I was not following Sheldon. I am now following him. Getting caught up. Looks like he also does a little bit of truck racing too, or he does stadium truck, and then also I don't know what you call a NASCAR truck is what I call it, but
I don't know if it's Craftsman still or
I think it's Craftsman
Camping
series.
World.
But so either way, he's doing that too. That's awesome. Sponsored by Continental. Good deal. Yeah, that's cool. Love the Stadium Super Truck stuff. I would love to get to see those in person. Maybe one day I will. Maybe they'll come back to Belle Isle because that's not too far from where I live at. I can actually drive there. I can get there in 3 hours, so that's pretty close. I will take that any day of the week.
They're coming to Road America also, which is actually one of the races that I really want to try and do. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you've ever been to Road America, but Road America is a pretty awesome track, and they're hitting the ramps at crazy speed.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. That's just crazy. I mean, honestly, watching some of the Indy cars, like, you had mentioned it earlier that you can tell the really good drivers from, like, I mean, all of them are way better than I could ever dream of being. But I'll tell you what, you can see, like, how good the really good drivers are compared to the ones that aren't quite as good, just in, like, the little tweaks in the way they take the corners. I imagine stadium trucks got to be the same way. Like, the way you hit that ramp and the way you take these corners, you got to be able to tell the amazing drivers, like, pretty easily, I would think.
Yeah, that's definitely the case, and I think there's a little bit of a case of what kind of set you have on you also, though.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah Price was very good too, though, and she didn't seem like she was intimidated.
Right. No, she kicked butt in the stadium trucks, but she's really kicking butt right now in Best in the Desert. I think she may have won. Was it Best in the Desert or the Snore Series? I can't remember which one. She's points leader.
Score. I saw Score. She's leading points.
I think it is. I am going to check that right now too. But that is awesome. And Sarah's been on the show 3 times now. And, we're now part of the same 4-Wheel Parts family. So her and I are basically sisters. Brother, sister. Wow, that didn't really work out right. But she's basically my sister now. I call her Sarah instead of Sarah now. We're pretty close. But no, I just wanted to check that and make sure I have the facts straight here. Because I know she just posted something about it. Score international championship lead. Yep, that's where she's at. That's awesome.
Yep, that's what I thought.
Well, good deal. Well, I want to know a little bit more about your social media strategy. It's important in this whole sponsorship world. I think some people love it, some people hate it, some people love it and hate it at the same exact time, like me. What's your take? I mean, how do you do the whole social media thing?
First off, I'll agree. I love it, and then sometimes I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really good and exciting, and you have content you're really looking forward to. But if there's like tons of time where I haven't raced professionally in a while, so I don't have the best content, I don't have professional photographers taking photos, just kind of can keep people intact with what's going on with the story, which I think is great. I would say what I try to do is I just try and keep everyone updated if I'm doing a race or a big race. And it's also great to see when other people are involved.
Yeah, I learned something early on in this show. I think it was like episode 9 when someone first shared this with me. It was Sean Endel. He's a backcountry snowmobiler, and he's like, yeah, my first problem that I had to overcome with my social media was, you can only ride snowmobiles so much during the year. Although this year right now, there's a lot of people still riding, which is crazy. But he's like, I had to, I ran out of content. I used up all my pictures. Like, what else am I going to do? You can only do so many throwbacks, right? And a lot of the people that would follow him, like, they want some of his regular personal life, but they want a lot of snowmobile. So, he learned to, like, basically stage everything out. So I think it was Sean that said this, but it's been so long now. When this show comes out, it's going to be episode 163, I believe. So it's been a little while since he's been on and talking about it. But yeah, he would say, okay, I have to have so many pictures to last me throughout the year, and I got to stage them all out so I don't use them up. I can't get too excited and post everything up right away. I thought that was a pretty good strategy. So I don't have to do it to that extent with my stuff because I always have different guests on. But like I have a Jeep Instagram page that I run now. It's just for my own Jeep stuff. And, I got to think about that when I go out because I might not go out for 2-3 weeks at a time. And I was like, I got to have enough good shots to keep me going here for 2-3 weeks, post a day, every other day.
Mhm. Yeah, no, and that couldn't be more correct, because it is hard to get good content constantly. But I will say I think it depends. I think a lot of people actually like to see how you actually live your normal life also.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of unfamiliar with that until learning that a little bit later. But I think it's cool to see.
I struggle with that. Even with this show, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of similarities with like the way someone runs a podcast or someone runs, a YouTube page as to how a racer runs their stuff. It's not that much different all the time. There's a lot of similarities, but I've struggled with that for the show. Like, I know it, and then people tell me, oh, you got to bring your personal life into it, and, it's got to be part of your social media, and some people actually are very much against it, honestly, but, most people I think say, bring it in little bits and make sure there's some relevance. But it's hard. It's hard to remember to do that. Like, you get so focused on whatever it is that you're doing, you kind of forget that you are a human and you're actually behind this thing too. So I know some people do a fantastic job of it. I just don't think I'm one of them.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely understand that.
Is there anything like kind of cool or unique or different that you've done to promote, one of your partners in the past that you can recall?
Honestly, not lately. I've actually been thinking about doing a giveaway pretty soon to give away some gloves, and then actually my old suit I think I'm gonna give away also.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
But I think I need to have a little bit more going on. But I've been thinking about that.
Yeah, that's it's interesting doing like the suit giveaway. I don't know if I've heard that before. That'd be pretty fun. I need to do some sort of giveaway again too. I actually did them quite a bit earlier on with the show, and I didn't get a ton of interest in some of the things that I was doing. I might need to try to up the ante here in the near future. Give something else away, pull in one of my sponsors, try to give away something really cool. But yeah, that's pretty good stuff though. I think anytime you can pull those things in and do something a little bit different, a little bit unique, especially for sponsors not expecting it, right? I think that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think the biggest thing is trying to get into new viewers' eyes, to get new interest from different people. But I would say that's also the hardest part of it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, with this show, one of my strategies, I don't know if it's worked or not, honestly. I mean, the show continues to grow, but, I don't know what the best way of getting there was. But, I'd like to bring in different disciplines, right? That's kind of like my way of growing the show. So I recently brought in the Jeep world. I bought a Jeep, and then I started interviewing Jeep guests, and I think I've had 4 or 5 on now. And honestly, two of the shows that I did with the Jeep world jumped into my top 10 most downloaded shows now. So Trail Recon is number 5 most downloaded, and I did one with Overland X, Marco Hernandez. That's number 10 most downloaded now. So I'm like, whatever I did there, I think worked out well, and it aligned nicely with 4-wheel parts. I think that's some of the reason why 4-wheel parts was interested. But like, that's for my other sponsors, that's new viewers, new people that really haven't paid attention to the show before, and it kind of gives them a different element. The downside of when you do something like that is you have a potential to alienate your existing guests, or your existing viewers, listeners, fans, whatever you want to call them. So like, what I mentioned earlier with disciplines, sometimes I think people come to this show, maybe they're like backcountry snowmobilers, like, oh sweet, next one's gonna be a backcountry snowmobiler. Oh, a Jeep again? Dang. So I worry about that sometimes, but I think you can run into that from a sponsorship standpoint in a race world too, where you're like, oh sweet, I got these new people I'm pulling, new viewers, but like, do they not appreciate my old stuff anymore because this is kind of different? Like, did I lose an old viewer? I don't know. It's kind of that's the love-hate relationship with social media, I think.
Yeah, no, I think everyone loves variety, but then also certain people are going to not enjoy one thing, and then they're going to want you to go back to what they like. The thing is, you can't please everyone, and so obviously do your best judgment, and also what you enjoy, because I mean, I would think you're doing this for enjoyment also. So.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting, like, if you pay attention to my social media feed versus like maybe my wife's, for example. I've looked over at her phone periodically, like I see all this stuff in there. I was like, what is this stuff? And she said the same thing to me. She's like, what is that? And if I'm scrolling, like, I've got a couple of different Instagram accounts. If I'm scrolling through my Jeep Instagram account, and I don't see, like, and I see a picture that's not of an off-road vehicle, like, I'm probably unfollowing that person. Like, what in the world are you doing to my feed right now? Like, get up out of here. This is where I come to just Jeep out. And, and then I go to the Sponsored Rider Club one, and I'm like, there better be some sort of racing in this thing in my feed, or like, you're out. But it's just kind of funny thinking about it that way. And, I know people do the same thing for my show too. Like, like, let's say the snowmobilers, like, all right, like, they're looking at their field, they're like, snowmobile, UTV. What in the world is it? Get out of here. You're out. You're cut. And I get it. Well, speaking of other things that I get, that's the horrible transition. Let's just get into lightning round because that's what's next. We're gonna do the lightning round here. Just a couple of questions. And I asked these to pretty much all the guests. First one here is, if you could sponsor anyone in the world, who would you choose and why?
I would say Travis Pastrana because I think he gets the speech, but everyone knows Travis Pastrana is the pinnacle. I mean, he's a legend. You do moto, you do cars, you do extreme sports, you do jump over a house with a Polaris Razor. I mean, he's not human. Yeah. So, and I think that's the thing that I think I most enjoy about it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good option. He's a super down-to-earth guy, too. I mean, I've only gotten to interview him for like 2 minutes and 22 seconds or something like that. By the way, everybody, I've interviewed Travis Pastrana. I'm going to ride those coattails for a long time. But yeah, it's hard to beat that guy. We've had, I don't know if it's an argument, but I know on the Sponsored Rider Club Facebook page, we had a poll. It might have been about 2 years ago, where we were trying to figure out who was like the top dude or gal, like the top person in motorsports sponsorship at the time. And there's, like Danica Patrick was in the conversation, Ryan Dungey, but then there was like Travis Pastrana and Ken Block. I mean, those two just came down to the very end. Like, who's the top one right now? Who's in motorsports? I mean, those are the people that'll. Because a lot of people that don't follow motorsports, they don't know all these same people. I mean, outside of maybe some of the NASCAR folks, they just don't know it. Like, they just don't. If I walk up to somebody and I say, like, hey, do you know, I don't know, they know Danica Patrick, but, do you know Sarah Price, right? Sarah Price is like everywhere, all over everything, if you're into the motorsports stuff. But if you're not, people might not know Sarah Price. But if you say Travis Pastrana, like, oh, isn't that the dude that jumped the Indian motorcycle? Like, yeah, that's the Evel Knievel 2.0. Like, yeah, they get that, and a lot of them get Ken Block. If I'm talking to somebody and they don't know who Ken Block or Travis Pastrana is, it's just time to get somebody to talk to. Like, I just gotta be done, or show them right away. Like, you gotta see Jim Cotta. Have you seen Jim Cotta? They're like, oh yeah, Jim Cotta. That's Ken Block. They're like, oh, okay, all right, I'm back. But yeah, either way, good. This is supposed to be lightning round. I'm supposed to go lightning fast, and I always end up running my mouth. All right, so next question: if you could use only one social media platform, which one would you choose and why?
For me, it'd be Instagram. I just think the way it's the actual platform itself, I think it has the most awareness nowadays, and I think it's the most entertaining to actually be on as a viewer.
Yeah, everybody's saying that. I mean, outside of people who have really good YouTube channels, right? Everybody says that, and I'm right on board. I really wish there was a little bit more competition, at least in motorsports. I mean, I know Twitter is still a pretty popular platform, but definitely not as big in the motorsports world. Facebook, I want to smash it many times. I still use it actively, and I still get a decent amount of engagement from Facebook. I think it offers some things that Instagram doesn't, but like when I just want to enjoy some content, Instagram's where I go. But yeah, I really wish that there's something new out there, or something different that we could try. I told people about this before. I've investigated TikTok. You might be of a more relevant age group for TikTok. Are you on that at all? Do you use TikTok?
I am not. I know, like, I've seen videos like I think it's of people singing or people making fun videos. I know about it, but I'm not on it.
Yeah, I've investigated. I'm not. I don't have actually, I don't think I have a profile unless I somehow created one to get on it. But yeah, I investigated it to try to figure out, like, is there a way I could leverage it for the podcast? And there might be, but I don't know exactly how to use it for that standpoint. But it's like people go on and they'll do like lip syncing or dancing, and there's some pretty talented people. It looks like there's a lot of different splicing and stuff that you can do. But I don't know how exactly you'd relate it to like a racing world yet. other than, I think I don't know, you could be able to do some sort of performance type stuff in front of, your race car or something. I could imagine someone like Amy Hood, if you follow, motocross or anything like that, you probably have heard of Amy Hood before, and she's been on the show a couple times too, and I could see her doing something successful on there, like, because she's got kind of like that fun, bouncy personality. I could see her doing like a little skit in front of her dirt bike, or like hop on her dirt bike and ride a wheelie to some soundtrack. Like I could see that.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I don't know. I would love to have somebody on the show that maybe has cracked that, but it's a much younger generation that's on it right now. So even when I'm watching some of the videos, like, man, I can't relate. I don't really know exactly what's going on here. But I would love to have somebody in the future, like, give me a better understanding of how people on this show could leverage that. Oh, lightning round. Lightning round. Go ahead.
At first, I don't see it happening for the motorsports community.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it'd be a tough one. I've seen a couple of videos, like I said, but I mean, I haven't spent that much time on it either. Maybe there's a way, like, on Instagram, right? You can build your feed out. I don't really know how to do that in TikTok. Like maybe you could get into a realm where you're just following some people that have that, but I don't even know if there's enough people to follow. So it'd be kind of tough. But I don't know of any other platforms right now that are really an option, that are big enough to get me any of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of otherwise would be maybe like Twitch with doing like live streams.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I don't know. We'll have to think about that more. Well, hey, if someone's listening right now and you know what could be another option, let us know. I would love to hear about that, and we can talk about it on the show. So who would you say, Jordan, has been your biggest supporter?
Personally, I would say my dad. Mainly looking up to him teaching me everything. No matter what I do, win or lose, he's always been super supportive, and I can't thank him enough.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, especially given how you grew up, right? Like, that's awesome. High five.
Yeah, really everyone in my family has been so extremely supportive. But I mean, it's just been through all the great times and the low times. My family's always been there.
No, it's perfect. Well, we're at the finish line here. We're going to wrap things up. I ask everybody this question, and you're no exception. What is one thing that our listeners need to take away from this conversation?
I would say just first off, hopefully the love for racing or motorsports community, and always just a different viewpoint on possibly how to get different sponsors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. How do we connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jordan Bernloehr, no space. And then on Facebook, I have Jordan Bernloehr Racing. And on Twitter, just Jordan Bernloehr, also no space.
Perfect. So you are on the Twitter. That's
yeah. I don't post much though.
Yeah, I don't either. I actually like Twitter. I do. I just don't get any engagement, like hardly at all, on Twitter. So I kind of just gave up to an extent. No, not gave up. Gave up is the wrong word, but I put minimal effort into it.
Yeah, no, I think if you are a person who has really random stuff that is funny to tweet,
yeah,
you are good. That's your community.
Right.
But for certain things, yeah, like I don't get much engagement in that either. So.
Yeah. I only got like a couple million followers on there, so it's like whatever. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Yep.
Well, perfect. Hey, I appreciate your time tonight. This has been a lot of fun. I loved hearing about all the different types of racing that you did, and actually, now that you said Travis Pastrana would be who you would sponsor, right? Like, I see some connections there. He does everything, you're doing everything. Like, it's all good.
Yep. Oh yeah. And
yeah.
he has great partners.
Exactly. Well, yeah, again, had a good time. Appreciate it. But I'm going to leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4-Wheel Parts. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming shows. Follow us on social media as well. That's where we share a lot of information and upcoming guests for the show. Pay specific attention to our Facebook page. That's where we do our live shows 2 each month. To get some insider access to upcoming guests, you can also check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. That also offers a forum for best practices sharing, so you can ask questions and get answers from the motorsports community. A special thanks goes out to our sponsors, 4-Wheel Parts, AMSOIL, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. I also want to shout out some of our other partners, GSP XTV, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, Diode Dynamics, and High Octane Coffee. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.